She has the bigger voice. And she said they're the.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Nice crowd today. Thank you all for coming. We have a packed agenda of topics today to go over, so we will not be able to get into all of them, I can already tell. But I have a lot of information I want to go over, and excited about a lot of things that are going on. So we'll just jump right in it. Today, May 15th, the new contracts go into effect. We've been talking about them. We had to talk about them about a month ago, so I'm not going to delve into it. I believe all the forms have been uploaded. But from this point forward, we need to use the new promulgated forms. The most important thing every one of you, as licensed professionals, need to know about stands, first of all, with the earnest money. For the last decade, we've been loosey-goosey with when this earnest money needed to be delivered. 20 years ago when I started, you never wrote a contract that you didn't get the check from the buyer and delivered the check over to Richard Hill at Willie Hetson, okay? But you made your check out to Charter Title, and then he wanted to use American Title, and you had to go recollect the check and take it back to your buyer and void that check and make it out to American Title, and it got to be so complicated that we then just said, well, we'll just deliver the checks later, and they deleted all of the timelines. It was just kind of this reasonable timeline of when you deliver earnest money, which got us into a hell of a new set of problems because people just didn't deliver the earnest money. They wanted to wait till after the option period, or their checkbook was in Baltimore, or they didn't have a checkbook, and it got to be more complicated. So the pendulum has shifted 180 degrees over here that says, collect the earnest money the day you write an offer. When it's accepted, get it to the other side as quickly as possible within 3 days, by 5 p.m. on 3 days. And if you don't do such things, the seller can terminate and does not need your signature to terminate that contract. Your buyer can think he's under contract. He can have dilly-dallied with his inspection, showed his fiance and showed his kids on the internet, and all of a sudden the earnest money that you had in your drawer wasn't delivered where it was supposed to be, and your buyer is no longer going to be under contract when the seller of the other side sends this notice that you failed to perform. And the failure is the result of the licensed agent not doing what they're licensed to do. So let's take it very seriously and don't have one Boulevard Realty agent not deliver earnest money within 2 days. Don't get me in a bind about being on the 3rd day. So let's hear what we're saying. Collect the check. Get a plan for the check the day you write an offer, okay? You don't have to necessarily get the check, but you need to be talking about it, because we used to not talk about it. We used to say, we'll get that from you later. And we just, telling you, it's gotten us in trouble. It's already cost one of our agents an amount of money, okay? You won't do that twice. When you have to pay $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 of your own money because you failed to perform, you won't do it twice, I assure you. Now, I don't want us to even have this conversation. I want you to get a plan for earnest money, unlike what you've ever done before. Yes, Jim?
Yeah, so I think sometimes the gamesmanship is an offer wants to use his title insurance company.
Yeah, that's
but they'll call first now. Because they said, who are we going to use?
I'm not saying you have to write out the check to American Title, because yes, it can change to Stewart Title, but you need to discuss with the buyer the fact that they need a check immediately,
right,
when this thing is accepted. And it's not going to be, I'll mail it to you when I get home from my home buying trip, and I'm going to go back home to Virginia on Thursday and mail it to you. That's no longer an option. It's no longer an option to say, I don't have a check, I'm going to have to go get a check, I can get a check next week from the bank. You're going to have to get a plan. And this is your job, is to educate people quickly at work. Okay? It's going to get people in trouble. Likewise, now let's flip to the other side. You represent a seller, And the other side dilly-dallies around with this earnest money. Remember, we used to beg for this little earnest money? We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to send the form that their contract terminated, and they can renegotiate, maybe at a higher rate if they don't perform. So we're going to need to keep an eye out on the earnest money. The difference, this one's a little weird, Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays do not count into your 3 days. Okay, so it's going to make it just even more
Only
complicated.
in that.
Pardon me?
Only in that.
Only.
They still count for your option money.
That's right, only for the earnest money.
Or anything else.
That's right. So I want us to pay attention to that. The seller's disclosure, yes.
Oh, I just had a question about one of the other forms.
Okay, well, I'm going to go over a couple more, but okay. The seller's disclosures, which were promulgated and went into effect February 18th. Okay, we've had this little grace period of stuff. We need to go back, and if you, doesn't matter what side that you represent now, it's May 15th. Everyone needs to go back. If we represent a seller, they need to fill out a new seller's disclosure that's dated from 2/18 on. So Sandra is not going to pay you any money if you produce a listing side and we don't have an updated seller's disclosure from 2/18 on. Okay? May 15th, you should use the new form. It protects us. It's a form to protect the sellers. We represent the seller. Our job is to protect the seller, so let's use the proper form to protect the seller. When things are not filled out, we have this all the time. I studied the case law today. Brother and sister inherit a house from mom. They never lived there. They're in a different state. They have it. They rent it out for 3 years. They're never here. They're not required to fill out a seller's. They are required to fill out a seller's disclosure of anything that they know. So if they re-roofed the house last year, they know that. If they paid the electric bill and they know it has central air and heat, they have to disclose what they know, okay? Anything that they know, you went in the house, right? You looked to see if there was gas or not. You filled out the MLS that said it had gas or central air or something. Then your seller has that same amount of knowledge, okay? So they need to fill out what they know. If they don't know, they don't know. But deceptive trade practices kick in when these people later argue something. I spent my weekend on Saturday and Sunday dealing with a property in Yale. And I want you to follow this one for just a moment. This property on Yale is selling. They bought in 2005 a bungalow, and it was 1 foot over the property line. They bought from the next door neighbor. Okay? He sold it to them, and they bought it knowing that there was this 1 foot encroachment. And they wrote that they would remove the encroachment within 5 years. Along the 5 years, they decided that they weren't going to go to that trouble. They weren't going to do it. It was in the contract. This guy has sold his property, okay? And this buyer is now suing this person next door for $1 million because of his failure to be able to use all of his property because of the 1 foot encroachment that they knew about and agreed to remove in 2010, and it's 2018 and they didn't. This property is for sale, and they can't close till they give this guy the $1 million for something that they knew about in 2005, and they agreed to rectify, and they never did. We don't represent any of these people.
What is it selling
I'm
for?
just telling you, this is how, I mean, the world is litigious. I don't want to be, when we know something, I don't want to be in these situations over here.
And on
Yeah.
seller's disclosures, what about the 4-year rule for disclosing inspections? That's come up.
I don't think that, I think you should use your judgment. So we're not required to, let's say they bought a house 5 years ago and it had a overflowing bathtub from the kid before he gets plugged in there, and it shows up in that inspection. So now we're selling 5 years later, and if they've done nothing about that, I would disclose it. If they've done something about it after that inspection, I don't think you have to provide that inspection report, because it might leave you've certainly done something, things are different. But where it's in everyone's best interest, I would disclose.
But what about within the 4 years?
Oh, within
That's
4
a
years,
hard
you
one, right?
absolutely
Yes.
must, you absolutely must.
Okay.
And it's not, the inspection reports don't get us, this is not where it gets us. It gets us on the estimates, okay? This happens all the time in our world. We represent someone, a buyer or seller, it doesn't matter. Let's say we represent the seller, we sell the house, 6 months later, there's termite. They call, there's only so many termite companies, right? They call the termite companies, A, B, C, and D. They go, oh yeah, I was here 3 years ago. I told the sellers that they had termites and they didn't want to pay for it back then. They failed to disclose. And here's a written record of these people having an estimate. Saying the foundation works the same way. Foundation problems 2 or 3 years, we go and sell it. It's a year later where they go and call John Beach and say, oh yeah, I was here in 2015. I told these people that they needed to do their work and they didn't do it. You have to disclose those things also. It's just be reasonable.
So if they disclosed that they had a foundation problem 3 years ago, can we?
Because they had an estimate.
Can we negotiate that?
Sure you can, you got an
It said
estimate.
seller's disclosure, we saw it before we wrote the.
My left foot is different size than my right foot. I'm wearing orthotics here, okay? It's always been a different size. My right hand is different size. You just disclose it and you move on down the road. The people, I mean, I don't think it's an issue that, yeah, I noticed a termite. I called one guy, they said it was gonna be $2,000. I called another guy and he said I wouldn't do anything. I decided not to do anything.
But if I'm saying we find that, yeah, there's still termites, can we negotiate that? Or they go, oh, we already disclosed that, you bought it as is.
If it's a year later and you disclose it, there's nothing you can do. Yes, you can use it to negotiate or not. I think it's just full disclosure. I think we all need to disclose better than we have in the past. So you're just disclosing that I had an estimate and I chose not to do it.
I'm saying I represent the buyer.
You represent the buyer and the seller's disclosing that they had a termite inspection in 2017 and decided not to do anything about it. But when you get the information before you get under contract, sure you can use that information to negotiate. Once you're under contract and you've had the information, you can't use it to go back and say, no, I rely on my own information, get my new inspections and say, look, I've decided I want the termite treatment. Yes,
Okay, so if I'm representing the state,
yes.
and so we didn't fill out a seller's disclosure, but we do know that there are problems.
Then
in the house.
you're required,
So
then they are bound by the
Right.
Deceptive Trade Act, not the Texas Real Estate Commission. You're required to disclose information that you have.
So the question is, do I have to fill out the seller's disclosure
Yes.
form to do it? So
Yeah,
that-
and they can just sign the bottom and say, I know it has a dishwasher. I don't know anything else, but I live in New Jersey and I just bought a dishwasher and it said it was delivered. I'm disclosing that it has a dishwasher. I don't know if it works or not. I just bought one and it was delivered.
Okay.
Disclose what you know.
Because on the contract itself, there's a thing that you can check that says you're not required to do a seller's disclosure.
You're not required. You're not required under the Texas Real Estate
Okay,
Commission.
gotcha.
You are required in the federal law to disclose information that would be deceptive if you did not disclose otherwise, okay? So
My
Yes.
studies report. Got it.
why wouldn't you want to disclose what you know? No one's asking them to disclose something that they don't know. But I visit again with Senator Whitmire because I think it is the most unethical thing on earth that we don't have these disclosures for landlords. So I can buy a flooded house that has 12 feet of water, I can fix it up for whatever, and I can rent it. And I'm gonna rent it to some little kid who's gonna sleep over here, and it's gonna rain in July, and it's gonna flood, and it's gonna kill the kid, but I didn't have to disclose that it flooded the year before. It's unethical. I mean, guys, this is unethical. We must create disclosures for rental properties. We must disclose rental properties that flooded. I mean, I just think we should, and the legislature will kick in, and I think that they will do that, because it's unethical to let people move in. The poorest among us are gonna move into the poorest neighborhoods that are rental properties now, and we're gonna let them move into a house and flood, and all their belongings are flooded. It's unethical. We have an ethical responsibility in our industry to have a higher standard. Yes, Jim?
Okay, so there's only one seller's disclosure on HAR,
That's right.
not two.
There's one seller's disclosure.
So it's the most current one, so.
Okay.
She
Here's
said
the one
there's two.
dated 2/18.
Why don't we eliminate the other one? Why do we even need it?
I don't keep up with where the forms are.
There's a track one, it's 3 pages long, you just check boxes, it's stupid.
We're not using that one.
Yeah.
We don't use that one.
Right, okay.
Nor do we accept them.
We use the form that's promulgated from our industry for 21818. Okay.
It's that one.
It's that one, yeah.
It's-
It should say somewhere.
Okay, then let's go to the new third-party financing addendum, which is going to be thoroughly confusing for people again. This is the new form, okay? If you're the buyer, you're buying a house and you're financing, and it's not VA or FHA, okay? You now can pull up the new form here that allows you to check some boxes, okay? So if you're the buyer and you just have the third-party financing addendum, we dilly-dally around. We've got a house over here on Aldreg selling it for $553. It appraised for $433. That's $100,000 difference, just so we might know. The buyer is perfectly capable of buying a house, but the property did not meet the lender's criteria for the loan. Okay, that's the way the third-party financing addendum is now. We're out of the option period. The buyer has the right to terminate. It's kind of loosey-goosey about how that works. This new form comes along. And it says, okay, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, or Mr. and Mr. Buyer, you have 3 choices here. You can check the box that says that you're not going to terminate because the opinion of value didn't make the deal. The property didn't appraise, okay? So you're gonna buy the house, not subject to an appraisal. You always had that option, but, okay? Now here's a new form. Buyer may or may not want to do that, depending on how competitive the buying market is. Here, the buyer could terminate the contract because it didn't, the value wasn't X. This is a perfect example of our own form where there's a bidding war, property's listed for $500,000 and someone bids $550, okay? Now you're the selling side. You say, all right, if you're willing to offer $550, I listed it for $500. So long as it appraises for $500, you pay the difference. Okay? Perfect example of where you would use option B here. Option C is something very similar over here. Says you can terminate if it doesn't appraise for some number. If it doesn't appraise for the number, then you have how many days to terminate. You got to provide them an appraisal within so many days. That's when you're going to use the old form here about terminating. Says buyer terminates because the property didn't appraise, and you're going to check the bottom box under here, and you're going to provide a copy of the appraisal. So now your property didn't appraise. We didn't used to have to give them the appraisal, and we kept negotiating. I want you to lower the price. No, I want you to reappraise it. So we were in limbo for 7 to 10 days before. I don't think we're going to stay in limbo this long anymore. We're going to either decide to buy it or not. So if you're the seller, we represent the seller, you want this form, okay? You want it because you want the more clarity you can get, the better. If you represent the seller and someone provides a third-party financing addendum, you need to use this form and we need to have total clarity. You need to appraise or not. Needs to appraise for a certain number or not. If it doesn't appraise, you're going to terminate within so many days or not. Clarity. If you represent the buyer and you want the most latitude, you may not want to even include the form, but you don't have to include the form. Okay? It's not mandatory. It's not a part of the third-party financing addendum. It's an option. So you represent the buyer and it doesn't appraise by $100. There's nothing that says you have to terminate within 5 days or 3 days or 7 days. There's nothing that says you have to provide the appraisal. You don't have to provide the appraisal if you check this little box over here. So see, it's going to be very gray here for the next few months until people get in the habit of using this. Big firms are really smart. They do a lot of training. They're going to learn to use the form. Small people with not a lot of training are not going to use the form. Be prepared.
It's not available yet.
Yes, it is. It's available today.
What's that form number?
This form number is 40-something here. I just pulled it up.
49.
What's it called again?
49?
It is, pull up here. It's the addendum concerning the right to terminate due to lender's
40?
appraisal. 49-0. Okay. Have I confused you over this?
49.
It's got a TAR number.
It's new.
If you represent the buyer
Bring it.
one way, if you represent the seller another, it will provide clarity. If we're down here at the bottom and you're gonna, say it doesn't appraise, and the lender calls you and tells you it doesn't appraise, remember, you don't always have that appraisal. It's gonna go to the buyer first. And so we need to be reasonable what this number is. It's not 1 day, it's not 2 days, probably not 3 days. It needs to be enough time for us to be able to evaluate, get the appraisal, see what the comps are, see if there are additional comps they didn't consider. The one I'm talking about, 2-story house on 2,500 square feet of land. Not under, in my world, that's fairly common. That appraiser would not use any comps except the other side of I-10, only Rice Military, okay? That's all they use. So yes, certainly I'm selling a 2,500 square foot lot with a house similar for a higher price per square foot at 1503 Rutland. So I think I can be able to give them different comps. I don't think the appraiser was very good there. So but I can't do that in a day. So but the seller doesn't want to be in limbo forever either here. They want to be able to buy it or not. So 10 days is too long. 7 is probably going to feel like too long. I think you're going to find that you're arguing between 4 and 5 over here. I think that's a reasonable time frame. 1's too small, 10's too long, somewhere in the middle.
So if you represent the buyer and you don't fill out the form, does the other side send you that form?
Well, if they're smart, they will.
Okay.
If they're really smart and they want clarity, sure.
So,
because if not, you can linger over here. You are under contract, it doesn't appraise, and you don't have resolution on the value. The buyer has the right to terminate, but he doesn't have to terminate. There's nothing that says he has to terminate today. He doesn't have to terminate within 2 days of getting the appraisal. He doesn't, not bound by anything other than what's reasonable. So this is setting that date.
right.
So if you're the seller, you want them to shit or get off the pot here at some point. We gotta go. We gotta move on here.
So when we send it, do we send it blank and say just fill it out?
No, you fill it out
For them?
Right.
Okay.
So
You're gonna fill it out for
if
them.
you are the seller, you want to show them. If you are the buyer, you want to.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like an option.
Which box are we gonna check when we send it
Are we
to
the
them?
seller?
We're the seller.
Well, you want that not to be subject to appraisal. So if it's a bidding war and they're putting 40% down, you're going to check this box and say, look, you're already putting 40% down. It's not like but if they're putting 5% down or 100% down, you're never going to get there.
Right.
If you're in a bidding war and you're bidding more than, if anyone is bidding more than the list price, everyone should use this box. I don't know why you wouldn't use this box. Unless you're unethical and you're just trying to tie up the property hoping that it doesn't appraise so you can get it at a cheaper value. There are people out there that are like that. So if you're the seller, you want this box. You want this one the next, and over here you want something with a reasonable amount of time frame.
Right.
But because you submit this with the contract, isn't 3 kind of a little too, futuristic or looking, doesn't 3 get you off on a kind of a bad note?
No, I think it's providing clarity.
Okay.
I think everyone's going to settle on 3 after the radical passes out and we get to it. To answer your real question, we're all going to land right here on 3. We're going to put the sales price right here, and we're going to go put 4 or 5 days right there.
Oh, got it.
And we're going to say, give me the appraisal as quickly as you can. If not, the damn thing's going to end. Because in this time frame, if you don't provide, you're either going to buy it or not. If you don't provide the information within 3 days, you can terminate in these 4 days or 5 days, or you're buying it anyway. And if it's the 5th day, then it'll cause people to act. I think you'll land here.
Okay.
It's a good form to have. It was too unclear how long you can't tie up a property for a month or 2 because it didn't appraise and you want them to sell it to you at a lower value. And there was nothing that we had in the system and the law that made us terminate the contract. So an unscrupulous buyer who got a low appraiser could keep that property from being sold for months and months and months. Yes.
So we had a value in the third-party financial addendum.
Okay.
for VAs, right? But not for conventional loan.
right? VA and FHA are not covered by this. They have a whole different sort of guidelines of how their rules are gonna work. Guys, we are having plenty of problems with these VA and FHA loans. We're not doing a good enough job of explaining to these sellers the situation with regards to what they might be required along the way. The same thing, it used to be fairly easy and it's gotten more and more complicated. For every seller with a VA or FHA loan, there are consequences and requirements that are not in a conventional loan that they need to understand. So in almost every scenario these days, we need the sellers to really understand what they're getting into. If they're desperate to sell and don't have any other choice, take it. If they have any other choice, don't pay the FHA and the VA loan in our typical scenario, okay? It creates problems. I'm not saying Boulevard Realty says never do that. Listen to what I said. You represent the seller and they accept a VA loan or an FHA loan, there are additional situations that can cause them problems and liabilities in the future that once we're under contract with, I can't get them out of. So why would you take it if you had another choice? If no other choice, then you're going to take it. Okay? Most of our deals are not there anyway.
It's pretty much impossible to do VA on a pure and being house.
An old house, we just would
Yeah.
never take that
Never.
anyway. That's not where it's getting us. It's getting us even on the brand new houses that typically have been fine. The requirements that they guarantee they don't have termites for 5 years. The guarantee that they'll warranty the house way past the period of time. No, and you don't figure that out until you're in the middle of the contract, and then the seller doesn't want to agree to that anymore. And I don't have any provision to get the seller out of the contract. We've entered into an agreement that says they'll do a VA loan or an FHA loan, and now the FHA or VA requirement is that they are liable for something after closing, and they don't want to be liable. And we've gotten ourselves in a bind by not thoroughly explaining the situation before they enter into the agreement.
Why are those requirements further than in the contract? Because if when we do
Tomorrow they can create a new one. Tomorrow the government can say, the VA or the FHA can say, I want you to warranty this property for 3 years. I want you to warranty for no termites for 3 years, no termites for 5 years.
Do they have that online that we can go to today?
It's very difficult.
Yeah, HUD has it. It's very hard to
It's
find.
constantly moving. You never really know what you're going to get.
It is a good reason to establish a great relationship with mortgage brokers who do FHA and VA loans.
Yes.
Yeah, I had one of our agents the other day to ask about that, and they were able to give me a question, an answer within about 7 minutes.
Yeah. If you have this scenario, I would come and talk to one of us with a fair amount of experience.
If the expectations of the seller aren't disclosed up front, how can they hold the seller to it later? That's like changing the terms of the contract.
right.
But it's just a requirement of the VA and the FHA, and so you're
Is that
already
given
entered
up
into an
front? I've
agreement.
never seen that given up front.
And it's hard to find like a bullet point of, this is all the crap that can go wrong.
No.
At the minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds very unfair for our veterans.
And why can't the seller just say, no, I'm not doing that?
No,
Well, how can they hold them to something they didn't know
because
about?
they've entered into a contract that said that they would agree to that financing, and that's a requirement of that financing. We have no provision to
There's
get them out.
nothing in there that says.
Right.
Sure it is.
Right.
It's just in the fine print, and it's not disclosed early.
Well, it's on their third-party financing agreement. So, did you have to have these things? No, but when you check that VA thing, then you're buying the whole VA.
That's right, and you don't know what that requirement might be.
Is anybody VA?
Let's just say tomorrow, and these VA loans, the VA decides in Houston, Texas, we're going to require the seller to pay 1 year of flood insurance. It's just theoretically, they change this rule tomorrow. They're bound by that rule and regulation because you've entered into that agreement.
$6,000.
Right. I mean, you have to be very careful how it's worded.
That's like holding them responsible for something.
But it's garbage.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm saying I am explaining to you that this is the situation in our industry. So don't enter into a VA or FHA loan if you have another choice.
Has it happened before?
It happens all the time. We're in the middle of hell and several of them. Yeah.
Okay,
On number three.
On number three.
First, I'd say we have a topic for number three.
Okay.
FHA.
Okay. Let's just not do it. Okay, forget
And then, on number three, it says buyer may terminate the contract within X days after the effective date. So can we put in there within X days after the date that the appraisal was received? Or do we have to put in there, is it like sort of the buyer approval? Where you have to come up with some date? Or
Is the effective date the date of the contract, or what is the effective date?
Yeah.
Contract.
Yes.
So these appraisers are gonna have to get that done in a certain period of
We
time.
need it, we really need these
That is
appraisals
really
in the
fun,
option
that is
period.
real.
I mean, we really need this number, okay, so in this scenario, this effective date,
Can I hear you?
we need to say 10 days. We need to say 10 days, get your appraisal within 10 days.
or whatever the financing, the buyer approval is.
Well, they should have approval before we get down this path. I'm still convinced we shouldn't enter into any contract with the buyer doesn't have.
You're not
But
gonna
you
get an
get appraisal
appraisal
after
done
your
in 10 days
inspection.
after the effective date.
After your inspection.
We should ask staff how quickly you get an appraisal if we order it the day of the effective date. Because it's gonna be more like 14, 20 days.
Mhm.
From the effective date of the contract, to get the appraisal out there, it's 10 days.
I mean,
We gave him 5 business days.
he gets it in 5.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So-
other people-
Then maybe-
Train wreck, he's already ordered the appraisal. Like, I don't typically order the appraisal until after. the-
Why?
After the
Option
inspection.
period.
Why?
Well, it depends on the house, because if the, during the inspection.
Isn't the appraisal way more important than the option period? How many of these issues are more than $5,000 or $10,000 in the option period? None. How many of these appraisals are off by 100,000? Let's just order the appraisal quicker. I think it's more important than the option.
It
I
depends on
mean,
the
I
house.
think we just need to get, so make it 14. But I mean, just, why would you, if you're the buyer, let's think about it from the buyer. Why would you want to buy a house for 500,000 that only appraised for 450?
Right.
And how much more money do you want me to spend in the option period, getting inspections, getting emotionally tied, spending money on all these inspections when it doesn't appraise?
And you can use it to negotiate too.
Right. I mean, so this mindset of waiting 10 days, getting out of the option period, and then ordering the appraisal, why are we doing that? To save the buyer $400? The $400 is a very good investment to figure out if we're overpaying for stuff or not.
Okay, so on day one that you get into the contract, you should go ahead and order the appraisal.
Well, I think most of us with a fair amount of experience can tell if a house is gonna appraise or not. So if you're pushing any sort of boundary, yes, I would order the appraisal as quickly as possible. If it's just not an issue, then I don't know that it's that big a deal one way or the other.
Mhm.
Okay, that was our 5-minute puzzle. So we're gonna move
Let's
on
move
here.
on.
Yes,
Speaking of execution date,
yes,
so many people are not writing them on their paperwork.
y'all, please do that.
Uh-oh.
It's electronic.
Please fill out whoever receives the earnest money, whoever is the last one to hold the earnest money, go and put the effective date on the contract. If not, we're gonna use the date that it gets turned into the title company.
Well, actually, they're using the date that you're signing it.
It's fine. I mean, we can agree to when it's mutually agreed upon. Okie dokie. Today, May 15th, is also the day to protest the value of property in Texas. Today is your deadline to protest. If you sold a house in 2017, I would take my list of houses that I sold, and I would go to HCAT today, and I would spend 5 minutes to look at the value that's been assessed to those properties. And if it's higher than what they sold, please email your seller and tell them to file their protest today. They need their iProtest number that they received in the mail in order to protest. If they bought a house for $700,000 and the value is $675,000, keep your mouth shut and don't say anything. Because when you protest, values can go up, they don't just go down. Plenty of people have this assumption that they're going to protest their taxes and protest it every day and it's every year and it's always just going to go down. It can go up. Okay? It can go up. Today is your day to protest. Let's flip to protest tax quotation. So this is also very confusing. This is the time of year that gets us the most when we go to sell houses and the taxable value is significantly different from something, the sales price or the year before. Okay? There is nothing in our contracts. Well, let me put it this way. The title companies are conflict averse and do not want to be in the tax game, nor are they required to be, okay? So they use what information they have. So they can come and say, the certified value is not out for 2018, the certified value for 2017 is X, and that's a statement, okay? And okay, that's a fact, I got it. There is nothing that to use the 2017 certified value. And in fact, we all have an ethical and moral obligation to use a number that we know to be more accurate, and it would be fraudulent to use a number that we know not to be accurate. An example, grandma dies, she had over 65 exemption. She dies December 31st of 2016. In 2017, they didn't take away her over 65 exemption. She's dead and now belongs to the estate, and they don't have over 65 exemption. And so in 2018, we're going to sell a house where grandma died, and the taxes were collected on $65,000. We're selling something for $500,000. We know grandma died. We know the seller does not qualify for that over 65 exemption. We know it's illegal, against the law, and unethical to use an exemption that you no longer qualify for. It is illegal. You can go to jail, like the woman who got arrested yesterday for voting when using someone else's name. That's illegal, right? We all think that that's illegal. It's illegal to use an exemption to keep your taxes down. You didn't pay your fair share of taxes, okay? So, I just pulled up some examples of things that we're selling here. Who has my little form?
Here you go.
Bring that. All right, Brandon is selling this house on Chippendale. He is selling it for $1,049,000. Last year in 2017, the taxes were $299. If we were at an unethical seller, let's say this was, I don't use that word. Scratch that. If we're using an established builder that wants to only use certified numbers, the new value of 664 is not certified. I'll give you that. They would, and we've had this happen thousands of times, the builder, David Weekly's of the world, want to prorate and give Brandon's buyer their prorated share of taxes on $299,000 because we're using their title company, right? And they go to closing and they get, close on May 31st, and they get 5 months of taxes based on $299 when we know that the taxes are going to be collected on this value. Okay? So I'm not going to go to their title company who's going to let you sign a disclosure that says, you guys handle this outside of closing, don't come back to us. That's what the title company disclosure says. Doesn't say anything else. Doesn't say the seller's going to pay his fair share, the buyer's going to pay their fair share. It says, don't come back to me. Okay? That's what their disclosure says. Big builders, though, the David Weekly's, the Lovett Homes, they have a form that says, once we sign, you ain't getting any more money from us, okay? So you do not want to go to closing and use some number that you don't know what the hell it is. We want to use 644,000, which is a fair number. The buyers, Brandon's people, aren't going to protest. They're paying $1,049,000. They know their taxes in 2019 are going to go up to $1,049,000. The seller shouldn't bitch because he's not paying taxes on $1,049,000. He's only paying taxes on $644,000. So we should go and prorate the taxes based on last year's tax rate and this value. Okay? In almost every scenario. Yes.
How do you get David Weekly or?
We say, David, you know this value is $644,000. Do you have anything on earth that tells me that the value is less than this? You're selling a house for $1,049,000. When we go and talk about it, did you not have $644,000 worth of product there on January 1 of 2018? And if he says, no, there was no house there, then I'll say, okay, well, you've proved to me that there was nothing there, and we'll agree to take off the improvement of $353. But I imagine if we're selling a house in May, then there was something there January 1. But if you just, anyway, it is illegal to circumvent the paying of taxes for something that you knowingly falsify, okay? So if they want to do something illegal, we'll have them arrested because it's easy enough to go to Channel 11 and put them on the news and have the district attorney arrest them. It's illegal to do it otherwise, okay? So now when you don't have any value, we got another whole problem over there, but we have most values we have now. It's the townhouses where we subdivide and don't have. This is just one quick example. Let's pick up another.
Well, how do you guys do that when they say no?
You put me on the phone with them. I'm gonna go, David. Here's the value on HCAD. What are you doing to protest this value? Did you file a protest prior to May 15th? And when they didn't, there is nothing that's going to change the value of this house. If they filed the protest, what's the information that they're using to protest? And show me how they think they're going to get it less. Because we know, good. Selling a house for $1,049,000. Don't be greedy. We're only going to collect taxes on $644 for this year. You're getting off good here, and it's illegal to use a number we know all to be incorrect. That's what I'm going to say to them, and it has worked every time I'm doing your career. Or we are not going to go to closing.
What if you're not available?
Brandon will tell them the same thing, and we're not going to go to closing. You must tell your buyer you are getting screwed and paying the seller's portions of taxes otherwise. Do not go to closing and do not go to agree unless your buyer is just willing to pay the seller's portion of taxes. Anybody represent any buyer that wants to pay the seller's portions of taxes? No. I don't think so. I don't think so. We want to get it as fair as possible. We will sign the tax proration agreement that says if it's less than this, we'll give you back the money, and you sign the same form, and if it's more than that, you'll pay us. But it needs to be in a range that's fundamentally fair for both parties. Yes?
Can we rely on that notice date? Because like today's the deadline, but that says 4/20.
That's when they were notified. I will show you that. That is when this seller was notified, and they have so many times. They have till May 15th, or they have an extension if the notice date is beyond, if it wasn't adequate. So that's why the notice date's there, and I'm gonna come back to that in just a moment. This is just when the seller was notified. In writing at their address that they had on record. All right, let's pull up another one. Where are we going?
Let's do Lawrence, might as well.
Lawrence is lovely.
So if I represent, I mean, if
Did we have one of Stars? We have one of Becky's.
If I have a new construction,
yep,
and it's $1 million home,
yep,
and
I gave you all these.
Typically, would you say that you would assign like that there would be a percentage, like 60% of the value, or do you always? I mean, shouldn't the title company figure this out?
They do not want to take any responsibility. We are professionals, though. I would be able to know what was there on January 1 of 2018. The seller knows. The buyer, the seller knows. He has a draw schedule if he's at the bank. He knows how much money they borrowed against it. He knows what condition it was in on January 1. I can look on the city website and see if they ordered their inspections for plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. Then it had plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, right? I mean, it's pretty evident. You can prove your point.
Okay, so if the value is still like very low, like the lot value, and you're getting ready to close in May or June on this $1 million property.
We'll pick a number, a reasonable
number.
Would
you just say like 60% of the value?
Well, I would tell you that I would go to the city website and I would look at the permit, and it would show me what they had, and I would know if it had framing or insulation or poly steel, if it had a roof, if it had sheetrock. I could tell what it had on January 1 based on the inspections that they had done. And that will give me a fair value. I am an expert at this, and I'm happy to help you. Brandon's happy to help you. Here is one where we asked about this notice date. You would be able to tell if someone says, oh, let's say you're selling that house and say, I'm protesting the value. This is another property where they were noticed on 4/13, but they filed their protest. So this value was $750, and it went up to $935. They obviously don't like, but they're only getting. The appraised value is $857, but they have filed a protest and they have these hearings that are set. So May 17th, they have a hearing to go there. They had an informal hearing, which they either went to or didn't, and got turned down. You're just going to the staffer and saying, look, it's too high. And now they're going before a board for the hearing to see if they can get it lowered or not. So this will tell you the status of their protest once they filed their protest. If in fact they really filed the protest, because a lot of people say they filed a protest and then they don't. Okay, let's just pick another couple of these just so that we have it, because I had one on. In most of these scenarios, so, although the 2017 taxes are too low, the sales price is generally too high. So here we just have, so Marky Becky are selling a house on 14th Street this month for $425, and its appraised value is $386. We're not going to use, so 386 is the same value as it was in 2017. We're closing later this month at 425. We can just use the 386 number. Seems fine with me. It's not going to be any higher than that. Here's another one. I'm selling 1503 Rutland. There's several of these scenarios, and I just picked several that we had coming up closing shortly. But if you're selling a house and this month, get in the habit, not the day of closing, please. I don't want to do this the day of closing. I want to do it right when you're out of the option period. We can move into this next phase of how we earn our money. The value of a good real estate agent is that we're going to prepare in advance. Go have the tax talk. So here's Rutland. We're selling it. Last year was 509. This year's 509. We're selling it for 700,000. Happy to use 509. Okay, not a big deal.
Can we do 2607 Yukon?
We can. What's the address?
2607 Yukon.
2607 Yukon. Yeah. How much are you selling this field for?
1.6.
1.6 million. When are you closing? Not today.
No. Not until June.
Okay. This is new construction?
Yes.
Okay. So last year was 491, and this year they got 1,235,000.
Okay.
So this is the number. Unless they file some protest today saying that it's not worth that, you can tell the difference of the improvement. Went up to 832,000. You're selling for $1,400,000. I mean, it's in the range. Maybe that's even a little high. I mean, it probably wasn't worth $1,235,000 on January 1.
Exactly.
So you could, I mean, someone could go and file the protest right quick. You could tell the builder, if you like him, go file the protest right quick today. Let's try and get down and save your people money. If you can get the number down to $1 million, because January, see, these guys didn't. The new construction, they didn't drive around on January 1. They drove around March 31 and saw this new construction. They just plugged in a number. There was no formula. The guy made $25.
Right.
So he's plugged in a number. You probably have a fighting chance of lowering that value down, which would save everyone money in 2018. And then in 2019, it's going to go to the sales price, $1,400,000. But if you could save a little bit for every 100,000, it's $2,600.
So just tell the listing agent that
I see the value on HCAS 235, $1,235,000. Today's the last day to protest. They should file the protest, at least get it in the system. Because the buyer can go and protest also. It doesn't have to be the seller. The seller can give the buyer a chance to go and protest right quick.
okay.
We get the information from the seller that says, look, January 1, here's my permits, here was my draw schedule. I'd only really borrowed $300,000 on this unit. I didn't even have any insulation yet. I just had a frame. And lower the value of 832 down to 235. What fighting chance there? Anyone else have just one?
So you can protest online. You click a button. And
Yeah, you have to have an
protest.
Interestingly,
You can look it up. It's easier if you're the owner to look it up than it is just look up everyone's protest.
mine is, the 11th of May.
Oh, your protest?
No,
And then
no, the, notice.
Oh, your notice. So you have an extension beyond this. Yes, there's plenty of people, if you're not noticed, you know, if with enough advance notice, then the May 15th date is not in effect for you. There's plenty of exceptions. We have a little rule. I don't know if you want to pull that up or not, but it doesn't matter. There are plenty of exceptions if you didn't have enough notice. There's some people that don't have.
okay, so you file a protest online. You put in your number, and then
You
it
put
puts
in
out a receipt.
Yes, you'll get a confirmation or whatever. Value was too high. Tell them what your situation
And
was.
so the listing agent and Stars thing can prove to her that she did that so that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and
Instead
I was
of
hearing what.
going and fighting this later on, if they go, no, in case the system doesn't have things right.
Yeah.
So they, but when they see.
We wanna look up another one?
At 1.6, when they say, well, now it's 1.6.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
let's Bring it to 1.6.
No, you're not gonna do that. The value January 1, it's still gonna be based on the value.
Because it should be a January.
It's all January 1. Everything is based on January 1.
And so if I look at my taxes today, they're not certified, but
They're not gonna be certified until, they're not gonna certify anything until you decide if you're gonna protest them or not. So they're
But
gonna,
if I don't protest, that's probably what's in
that's correct, yeah, absolutely.
Nobody goes back in and goes, oh, wait, we messed up. And
The only real reason, the thing that kept it is that the exemption needed to be removed. So the over 65 exemption, agricultural exemption. So I sold the church at the corner of 10th and Oxford with an unscrupulous builder who didn't want to prorate the taxes. Yeah, he had rented it to a church. Well, he was the owner. The church wasn't the owner. He wasn't exempt from taxes. If the church owned it, he was. They came back and filed a lien for 5 years of taxes that he had claimed he was a religious institution. He wasn't. If I own a piece of property and Jesus rents it, it doesn't make the property exempt. I'm not exempt, just Jesus is. Okay, enough about taxes and prorations and forms, moving on.
Is Town Homes gonna cancel your contract if you tell them you don't want, you want to?
They have the right to. They're going to use a reasonable number.
I thought that,
They could.
in Town Homes.
They could. They
I'll find
could.
out next week.
Do what?
So I'll find out next week.
Yeah. Okay, let's get off that. Heights design guidelines. So I don't want to linger here. If you have property in heights east, west, or south, not anywhere else, we're not talking about North Hill, we're not talking about Woodland Heights. I feel like we're going to send you an email that I think you should forward to your homeowners that they should contemplate sending in. We have a comment period until this Thursday at 5 p.m.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Well, is it 2 p.m.?
Well,
It's
the
before-
meeting is at
3.
so it's after the.
That's right. You can go to the meeting on Thursday. I'll go and speak, or you can submit your comments. The comments really need to be from homeowners who are in there, and they can say, I love these design guidelines. I think they're fabulous. Or you can say, I think you're insane, and this is what I think you ought to have. You're going to get a design guideline. So the comments about I don't want a design guideline, the comments I don't want to be in a historic district, they throw them in the trash. And they weigh the comments on the deal. And there are 8 issues that we have, and we think you should weigh in on these issues. Yes, Bill?
Does this only apply to historic?
Only in historic, only in Heights East, West, and South for this one. Every other district, like Woodland Heights is going to get their chance here soon, and we're all going to get a chance, but this is just in the Heights. We prepared a little template email. I would just cut and paste and send it on if you care. If you don't, let it go. Rose, I would send in an email. Anyone that owns a piece of property, I emailed Heidi. I'm begging them, please send in an email.
So if you're not in the historic district, that doesn't apply to you at all?
It doesn't apply to you.
But how's it gonna happen if the meeting's at 2?
Because then they're going to weigh the comments the next week, and the administration will review them and make a recommendation. So the finished floor height, the highest the house can possibly be, is 32 inches. I just want to get it to 36 inches. I think 36 inches in a city that floods is a reasonable number here. You can't build at 32 inches. By the time you have an 18-inch truss and some plywood and stuff, it doesn't give the guy underneath the house but about a foot. Not everyone can crawl underneath a foot. Wouldn't it be nice to have 18 inches to crawl underneath your house? So I'm not trying to be unreasonable, and I don't want to get hung up in it because not a lot of people care, but anyone that owns property in one of these 2,350 houses, last time about 40 people weighed in.
Wow.
And I don't think that's because they realized they had a chance to weigh in. I'd like to get more people to weigh in. Yeah, we're going to email it to you later today. Okay. Hurricane season starts June 1. Are we ready for that? I'm not going to get hung up on it. We have these hurricane guidelines. We get a little bit closer. Most of these storms are later in the year. In reality, there's not much difference this year than last year, okay? The same conditions exist. Remember, more properties, 60% of the properties that flooded were not in the floodplain, okay? I beg people, if you have a car or a garage, please get flood insurance, okay? If you're a renter, tenant with a car or any contents, get flood insurance. Everyone needs flood insurance here. The overwhelming majority of problems were in cars and garages. They weren't even in houses. But I would, we're gonna send you some information so that we keep, we keep on this over here. There is, tied to that, a bond election for Harris County on August 25th. It'll be the single largest bond election in the county's history. $2.5 billion, August 25th. The good news is that they're trying to do something. I'll give them an A for effort there. The bad news is you don't have any idea where the money's going, how they're going to divide it up, or what projects it's going to go for. We must demand some accountability and transparency, or it risks failing, which would be a little embarrassing across the nation when we fail to do what we should do to keep our citizens from flooding. So I'm a proponent of doing something. I am not a proponent of giving politicians $2.5 billion and them not telling me what it is exactly that they're going to go do. So let's continue to apply pressure on them to explain exactly where it's going and make them be somewhat accountable. And that will be the conversations here over the next 2 months or so. And then people will weigh in whether they're really for it or not. We don't have enough information yet. So we just set the date. We've kind of set this general amount. We fluctuate a little bit. But I really think they're going to need to tell us. The typical county project, $1 billion over those. They divide the money in 4 and it goes to the county commissioners and they just delve out the money, okay? That's not the way we need to handle flood control in the county, okay? It's not the right way to do it. So we'll come back to that. Sales 2018, off to a good start. The firm, which had its best year last year, is up about 5%. The sales on statistically HAR probably about the same there. I think the inner city areas are doing fine. I am a little nervous that oil is getting a little high here. When you talk about Iran and the spike in the oil comes over here, our industry does worse with uncertainty. So the worst thing that can happen to us is oil go to $90 or $100 a barrel, and be unrealistic for a little period of time, and it drop down to 40. It's not good for real estate. It's just not good. So jobs have been good. We talked about at the beginning of the year, follow the jobs. Where there is employment and people moving to Houston, Texas, our housing stock will do just fine. When there's not enough jobs, then it's going to create some panic. We've done fine in the job world. Statistically, we're on track about like what I talked about at the first of the year. I'm not going to get too hung up into it. I think the market is strong. It's been exactly the way we've been talking about. People want, like Match.com, 5,000 people there. Everyone wants the brand new person who just entered on today, right? Real estate's the same way. They want the brand new listing. Nobody wants the one that's on 180 days. They're nervous about the one 181 days. You got to do something to that one. I would say if you represent the buyer, that's the bargain. Go try and buy one that's been on the market for a long time. You're not in the bidding war. If you don't have the stomach for the bidding war, then that's what you're going to have to go do over here. But I still think every market is local and it's just dependent on exactly where you are. But it's statistically about the same. I don't anticipate any great changes there. Okie dokie. But I was in New York. About New York just briefly. I went to the Wall Street Journal, hosted a conference. There were a couple hundred people around the world, 120 speakers on 90 topics that were really on 12 major topics. They were like TED Talks. You had 12 to 15 minutes of the presentation and then 5 minutes or so for conversation. The topics really were the future of cities, the future of homes, the future of transportation, the future of sports, the future of medicine, the future of artificial intelligence. Okay, you had Rahm Emanuel and the mayor of Newark. You had Sarah Jessica Parker. You had Jonathan Adler, the designer, and you had all kinds of people. You had the Chevrolet, and they have 2 million electric cars. They're the largest producers of electric cars in the world. And so you had pretty fascinating people, architects or whatever. the main story for the New York real estate magazine called The Real Deal was the death of boutique residential real estate firms. This is the cover of the magazine, and this was the whole theme, and it's talking about, this was a firm, this was basically a Martha Turner type firm. He bought his firm the same basic time I bought mine. He dealt with recession. They're in New York. They grew to about $2.5 billion. They got a buyout offer. He had to borrow some money from some hedge funds or whatever over here. And then it starts getting competitive. You're enticing these agents. The commission split, their average commission split was about 74%, which is probably about the same as ours by the time you remember you have the whole staggered split after 7.5 and 10 million. And so he was losing $110 million a month. And they closed 60 offices. They laid off 600 employees. And they just closed shop shortly thereafter. Could not figure out a way to get themselves out of the hole that they had gotten in. Just a funny little perspective. So this is my 10th year. Next month, I bought the firm and I recreated the image of what it is that we have here today, buying Karen Durham Associates and creating Boulevard Realty. And look, I'm not the smartest business guy. I bought the month before Hurricane Ike, and then a grand recession had similar sort of problems over there. And I think my conference, and I've been trying to go, I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and go to a few of these things, is how are we dealing with change and disruption across the world? It's the Ubers of the world and Airbnbs of the world. They disrupt things and they change things. And what is the future of even our industry as it relates to a number of these sort of things? You know, how are driverless cars and transportation dealing with the sizes of garages, and do we need garages, and where do we need garages, and just those sort of things. The artificial intelligence, AI, augmented reality, those sort of things were in every topic. There was no topic from putting the computer chip in your brain and dealing with medicine, or if it was, targeting cancer cells, or using data to select pitchers for baseball. I mean, the general manager of the Astros was there. He was one of the speakers. Pretty fascinating job, the evolution of jobs and how they change, the infrastructure and how you build pipelines or rail lines that are obsolete. You spend billions of dollars and you spend $2.5 billion putting in a subway platform, and all of a sudden millions of people move this direction versus this direction, and you don't have the ability to adjust accordingly. Mm-hmm. And how you stay grounded and adjust was kind of the overwhelming theme of how I'm going to take this image off now. It was fascinating. The most fascinating things had nothing to really do. I got this private tour of what is the Hudson Yards. It is the single largest private development in the history of mankind. It's a pretty big deal. They built over 40 acres where the trains kind of all were, they came in and they take the trains and they move them around and they send them off to New Jersey, or they turned around there. And 10 years ago, they decided, the MTA decided to sell the rights above that 40 acres. So the trains are all still there. They built basically these platforms, and they've created a whole new section on West New York. And so they could not get one bank in America, 2008, to provide any money. All the money was come from China or Russia or from some other area. And they created this phenomenon that is changing the face of New York. I mean, it's changing New York. The High Line gets about 8 million visitors a year. The High Line goes right by this. They created commercial towers that have everything, shopping malls. The Neiman Marcus, world's largest Neiman Marcus, has 20 curated restaurants curated by Thomas Keller inside the Neiman Marcus alone. You can imagine these sort of things. The office towers are huge, larger than the Empire State Building. The observation tower is higher than the Empire State Building that you can go up to. Then they condoed those buildings. They sold 30 floors to Time Warner, 30 floors to da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
The best and the brightest of New York want to be there. Google and Apple and Microsoft. The average guy is 32 years old in gym shorts. They have the most amazing workspaces you can think about. Not a soul goes into that office before 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the daytime. They work at 9 o'clock at night. They play ping pong and shuffleboard while they do it. They don't have one desk. That's not how they operate anymore. They own Equinox, SoulCycle, and Plank, and the world's largest Equinox hotel, where every restaurant is curated to health and fitness. They created what's called the Vessel, and it's got, think of the Eiffel Tower, but turn it upside down. It's 15 floors, and you walk on it, and it's 2,500 steps, and it's an interactive deal that you go around and around and around in the middle of this 40 acres. They paid a little artist $140 million for the Vessel. The Shed, which is this performing arts center, think of Toyota Center, but with the retractable stadium of the Texans, and the whole damn thing moves. So you can have outdoor area like Central Park, or you can cover it for a light show or Bon Jovi concerts. It's all right there. The heat of the trains makes the ground at 150 degrees, so they must chill the ground and chill the water to irrigate the landscaping there. But they've created this whole environment. It's beyond belief. If you had $25 spare billion, what would you build? This mixed use concept of, for all types of people. They were required to have certain affordable housing components. They have about 4,000 units that are workforce housing. They have condominiums from 2 million to 40 million, retail, hotel, entertainment, outdoor spaces. Over half of it's outdoor spaces that they have. And it's right there in this west section of town, kind of by the meatpacking district in Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen. And so my friends that own the building south of the fire station, the one that we just redid for that whole plumbing supply, they're the typical co-op in New York. 18 units, post-World War II, high ceilings, beautiful old deals. Typical sort of thing, $5 million, got a doorman, there's 3 doormen or whatever. They pay $5,000 a month, for them to bring in your trash and take down your stuff or whatever. Those buildings are virtually vacant. Can't sell them, can't give them those away for $2.5 million. They'd rather be in that traditional co-op. Richard Nixon tried to buy there. They wouldn't sell to him after he was president. You have to provide all your financial information. You got a co-op board. They know everything about you. They don't like all brown people and yellow people and green people and people of different religion. You can go over here and buy a $5 million condo in Hudson Yards. Nobody knows your shit. You go over there and do just what you want to, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So the co-op is dying, and these new little sections are flourishing. I mean, they sold out of their 400 units and 250 units, different buildings. Minimum price was $2 million. They sold out of those deals. The whole setup doesn't even open until March 15th of 2019. It doesn't open. A few of the commercial buildings are open. It was just fascinating to kind of see how all that works. It's unreal. You have to go and check out this Vessel. They have a prediction it'll be the most Instagram photo in all of the world by next summer. The interactive nature of it. So that was pretty fascinating. The future of everything, it was prepare for changes. Prepare, keep yourself flexible. Allow yourself mobility in your home. So even building garages, what will the garage be after that? What will these mattress firms be after this? What will these storage centers be after that? Prepare for that. Make the ceiling high enough so you can change the use of the building, because it's not going to be what you think it's going to be for very long. You have to be able to give yourself some flexibility there. So with that, let's go into the new office building a little bit. We are very excited. We think we have this new concept. I suspect we are moving over to the new building in August. We will not, we'll just keep this thing open, and there'll be an overlap for about a month. Nothing from this office is going to the new office. So we're going to do the top-down version. So the way the building works, downstairs on the corner, the southwest corner, is a little Italian concept. It's a husband and wife team. They used to be in Conroe. They moved here. They live on Pecor. and they will have a small Italian concept, about 45 seats. It'll be open at 6 in the morning, very Italian, cappuccino machine, croissants, bakery goods, breakfast goods sort of thing, open for breakfast. Then they'll transition at lunchtime to kind of soup, salads, sandwiches, pastas, those sort of things. And it'll transition more into nighttime into, traditional New York neighborhood sort of restaurants. It's open 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so that will bring in a certain amount of people, plus give us the flexibility of getting our own little cappuccino down there and interacting. We have a space about the size of this that we're in now, adjacent to the Italian food restaurant. And it'll be storefront like this, and we'll have digital video screens going on with sound, and it'll have a screen going of different agents. So you'll have your own little commercial. It'll be David Diamond, hi, welcome, I'm David, I've lived in the Heights 18 years, and I love dogs, or whatever. So one about the agents, one will be about the houses, and it'll be 1107 East 14th, this 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a beautiful backyard and water feature, whatever. Yeah. Then there'll be one about neighborhoods, and we'll talk about Galveston, it'll talk about the Woodlands, it'll talk about the East End, it'll talk about all these sort of things. And then there'll be one that'll basically be commercials talking about the state of the market in general. So 4 kind of interactive sort of screens facing Studewood when people are walking down the street sort of thing. Receptionists there, sitting area there, conference room there, and Sandra down there, some display for art, and then tax office is at the back there. He has his own private entrance off the back of the building and an entrance from adjacent to Sandra's office there. So he'll have signage kind of in 2 spaces there. Most people will park at the back of the building or on the side, and you enter into a foyer like this, and you can go to the elevator up, you can go to the Italian food restaurant, you can go to our spot, or you can go over here to what will basically be a dessert shop at some point. Let's get open and figure out what we're going to have there. Our spot, you'll get, and you can, from the Omar side street, you could take the staircase and go straight up, although I don't think people are really going to do that. The contractors and stuff. Can we flip this around or get the better visuals? Is this the best one back? There we go. So the staircase basically is right here. So this is Omar and this is Studewood. So this staircase, the contractors come and get paid by Branderson will pop up and they'll come into this staircase here. The average person is going to pop into this elevator here, of which Selena would be here. Here's another little video screen going on, a little sitting area. The receptionist kind of greeting you here. The restrooms are all over here. We have 4 times more than what we have now, so that should be fine. Room for some storage. If you bring your toothbrush or brush or hairspray or whatever, there's some storage behind all that. This is a whole kitchen, a full commercial kitchen with a 48-inch range, thermidor, wine chiller, refrigerator, for all that sort of area here. This is kind of the quadrant that we have now working. This is my desk, all still kind of open here. This is Brandon and Terrence and Arturo and people, my assistants kind of all working in this section. This is construction, so this is Maria and Frank and Mario here. There's some display walls here. These are storage and bookcases and things for the libraries, and just, tile and stuff here. And marketing is back here. Thomas and Aaron and Frank and anyone, Kathleen. And then they have some wall space here and here also. This is one of those little phone booth workspaces or whatever that are kind of popular. We're going to have a couple of these little things. But they have them even in the airport at LaGuardia. I mean, you can go in there and it's your own little phone booth workstation. If you just really need to cry or something. These are printers and things here. These are big conference areas. This thing pulls back. We actually can see 20 people in a conference area there. These are little reception areas here. So the way this works, these whole things, so there's a lot of couches and a lot of chairs and a lot of screens. And so I'm still envisioning the average person is going to meet their client Downstairs, gonna be in the Italian restaurant. This is a 2,000 square foot patio. This whole building is about 3,000 square feet. So that has a summer kitchen and a little trellis area and couches and chairs and streamed little lights. And I think it's going to be a wonderful area to sit out there, not necessarily when it's 100 degrees. Part of it is covered, these two sections. You know, I envision eating lunch out there, having lunch and learns, or having meetings out there or something. And this is fairly quiet. It's back to some new stupid house someone I can't imagine will ever buy, but we're still over there. This whole section is really old. It's like the training quadrant. And this wall is basically, these are antique brick walls and antique floors, all kind of painted white in here. The ceilings are all kind of white industrial. And these are two big screens on walls like this for us, you know, and in reality, so then someone talking would be here, people would be here, and we'd be looking at these big digital screens behind us or whatever for some sort of training out here. These things all can move out of the way, and you could set as ever many chairs and things that you want here. These are storage, signage, and mechanical, and all sort of storage stuff here. These are all sort of lockers and, you know, individual space, so everyone, I think we have about 75 spaces for people to have their own sort of space, and they can put whatever they want in there, and it's lockable, and so everyone would have that. And these are kind of these top producing areas here. The goal is to still do business in a different way. So I went to Heritage's office at Memorial Green. I went to Berkshire Hathaway's office in the Woodlands. I'm on my little tour of how these offices work. None of these people have any computers. They have no lockers. They have, and I'm not saying I want to be like them. I'm just trying to look at what it is that they have. And I want a work environment that's interactive, where people are communicating with one another. You know, not sitting in some cubicle. There's a lot of flexibility. Almost all this furniture is coming from Knoll. It's all very flexible. A lot of different uses. So we'll be able to address noise. We'll be able to address some privacy. We'll be able. It's flexible. I want you to know it's still somewhat flexible over here until we figure out exactly how it's going to work. I think if Bill's client came in, Bill can sit with them here and go over something on a computer screen, or sit with them here and go over a computer screen, or sit with them here, or sit with them here, or sit with them here, or go outside, or go downstairs, or go to the restaurant, or go here. I mean, a lot of places. I don't envision you sitting with your client or customer in these areas. I don't envision that anymore. I don't think that's how it's going to be. I think you're going to interact with them in a different manner. It's going to be very open like that.
Is there room for a printer at our desk?
There is not. Their printer. I think the printers are all lined up right here again. The desks are bigger. It's very deceiving how big this is. It's very big space. I mean, bigger than you think. So I think these tables are like 5 feet. They're not the size of this. I don't know how big that is. But I mean, there's lots of room. But we're not buying 78 computers and 75 printers for that. I'm not doing that. And then there is flexibility. There's charging stations and everything. You know, it's wired for everything.
We have monitors.
Yeah, we have monitors. Yeah, I'm not saying we're not gonna have any computers. Just saying it's flexible. Yes, Bill.
Have you leased out the third floor?
We have not.
Do you know what that's leasing it?
Do I know how much it's leasing for? What it's leasing for?
Yeah, what are you trying to get for it?
$36 a foot. I want something that complements us with not a lot of traffic.
Medical.
You know, we've looked at orthodontists and dentists, you know, but really there's more traffic than that than you think. So now I'm still leaning to law firm, interior designer. You know, he doesn't have a lot, you know, he has a few clients at a time, but not 30 people at a time.
How big are you going to make it?
The builder could work. I mean, builder could work.
How big are you going to section the space?
There's basically you could be anything. With 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 4,000, 2,000, 6,000. What we're thinking. Questions about space?
That's great.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, we've been messing with it for quite a while. It's very flexible. You know, so what we don't like, we're gonna just change. I mean, so we'll just kind of test our way through here and see how it works. Pretty much. I like it.
Is this gonna be as noisy as where we are right now?
It is, it's different. It's different. So there's hardwood floors versus concrete. Most of the stuff, there are fabric components to all of this sort of area to address with noise. And, you know, if this is noisy, we're going to pop in the rugs right here. We're going to pop in the rugs right after that and see. We're not going to be too noisy, but it's not designed for a bunch of silos for people to work in individual.
Yeah, I don't think the building is no, weirdness.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to have a fair number of people interacting, you know, so that when you want privacy, you're going to have to go somewhere that's more private. And it's probably not going to be right here. Because that's the point of it is to have people interact. If we don't like this and we want to pop in 2 more couches and coffee tables and we sit here and on our laptop, and that's how, you know, there's total flexibility over here. But it's,
Outlets on the floors? Okay.
they're underneath the wires, all underneath, it can move anywhere it wants to go. These walls can all move wherever they want to go to. If this gets loud, I mean, yeah, can I pop in this glass wall right here? I can pop it all in there. If I wanted a bunch of individual, quiet cubes, I could do that. I just don't think that's the future of our industry. I think you come to the office to talk to Martha and to Jay and to people, to interact with people. If you're not coming to interact, I don't know why you would come here in the first place. I just think that you're coming to share in the synergy of what's going on in marketing and construction, and what's going on in all these little areas. Otherwise, meet your client downstairs, you know, or, I mean, I just think that's what it's really designed for. More interaction, more, like I say, a lot of the time, this will be gone, and there'll be lunch and learns and all sorts of things. We'll go use this building. I'm spending way too much money not to use the building, so I want a lot going on over here. So.
Are we worried about parking at all? Are we?
I think we always worry about parking. There are basically 67 parking spots here. We have the back of the glass wall where we have an agreement for. We have this parking we haven't accounted for on Omar. You know, I'm still thinking this is probably the easiest way to pop in, and run out. But there's significantly more parking than we've had in the last 10 years.
Will the parking be shared by the restaurant, or
Yes.
will we have a sign?
No.
You know, I mean, like Boulevard won't have like, this is Boulevard only.
No. Now, the restaurant, when's the restaurant really going to be busiest? 11:45 to 2 and 5:30 to 10:30. I mean, that's when it's going to be. It's not a very big restaurant. I mean, let's just be real. It's not much bigger than this right here. It's just not that big. It's about the same size as Golden Bagel Place, I guess.
And when you said, we probably need about 20 spots.
Yeah.
Like on a normal day.
I mean, I think parking's always a concern for an industry that's always in and out of the car all the time. There's no way to not use the car other than man. Okay, what time is it?
It is 11:24.
Oh my God, already? We didn't get into anything.
No, we didn't. Boot camp.
Let's
Let's just say boot camp.
But all right, but we are going, okay, so we're going to continue to discuss this month and next month about who we are and who we're not. And we need to kind of be clear about what is a Boulevard Realty agent and what is Boulevard Realty and how are we different. I mean, and so I just came up with a few of these things and we'll edit and share them along the way. I mean, but, so we are, but we're specialists. We're not general. We're not everything. We don't know it all. So, what does that mean? We can sell a house in Amarillo. We're licensed to sell a house in Amarillo. But you don't know shit about anything in Amarillo. Okay? I don't want you to sell a house in Amarillo. I think unethical for you to sell a house in Amarillo. For you to try and make 3% of something in Amarillo because you can, doesn't mean you're the best person, the best suited person to help your cousin, your brother, your mother, or your college roommate to buy a house in Amarillo. Don't sell a house in Amarillo, right? That's not what we do. We are not commercial experts, guys. Quit trying to do this commercial stuff as a service to someone so you can get their future business. You're not competent. We're not qualified. We're not good at it. You should take responsibility to find the best person for your mother, your brother, and your best friend. And when that is us, they should use us. When it's not me and it's Deborah up north and it's Deborah, it's not me. I don't know anything about Galveston. I really don't. That's Robert. That's his expertise. I can go to Galveston. I got an office in Galveston. I don't know anything. I can't give them any advice. I don't know anything about the history, and I certainly can't predict the future over there. That's what Robert does. I need us to stay focused into our area about what it is that we do great and don't do other things. A brain surgeon does not perform an appendectomy over here. And we need to remember that. And this fleeting passing, it is distracting for my staff. It sucks the life out of me that we go and fight over some commercial. I think we should be selling single-family residential homes because that's what we do great at. And that's what I think our obligation to our client is. Who do we represent? And are we best representing these people? And let's not try and be all things to all people. And let's always put our buyers and sellers first. What's in their best interest? And when it's not I just got 2 referrals from Martha Turner agents because their clients want high-end houses in the Heights. And those Martha Turner agents know that I am the best person suited to do that. And I'm happy to pay back that agent at Martha Turner 25%. He has plenty of Martha Turner agents in his company that you could have referred that to, right? They didn't do that. You know what they did? They did the best thing for their client. They got their client the best agent. That's what we should be about. That's what we, and when we're not the best agent, we gotta let that go and do what's best for those people there. And be committed to the longer term relationship, not doing something quick and easy just because we can. So we're gonna be talking about who we are and who we're not. And we're not all things. I'm not the glitziest marketer. We're not the most technologically savvy. All of these real estate companies are all about lead generation, and I get it. But what I never have really gotten is that creating some system to capture somebody you know nothing about, so you can capture them. And if they're playing on Zillow, they're playing on 1,000 other websites, they're playing with 1,000 other realtors. It's not a relationship. I wouldn't go there. I would establish a relationship by being known as knowledgeable, experienced. And where you're not experienced, the firm is. It's a partnership. It's a family. It's a group of people. There is no one here. I can't sell any houses without the signs of the other 70 people. Melissa can't sell any houses if we don't have saturation over here. We're only able to sell a house because I've been doing it for 20 years. It's never this transaction or this sign or this buyer. It's the accumulation. Coca-Cola didn't sell a Coke because they sold a Coke. They sold a Coke because they've been selling a Coke for 75 years. And there's an expectation of what Coke is going to taste like. And they're not going to get botulism. And they know what it's going to taste like. A relationship with realtors is the same way. This firm is the same way. That's why we're here. And if that's not what you want, then, we should do what's best for you. We should do what's best, because I think what we have to do is build each other up and continue to build our brand, because it's best for all of us, and it's best for the buyers and sellers that we represent. So we're going to continue this dialogue for this summer. Come up with this new rebooted 2018 version of who we are, 10 years after I started the firm, and I want you all to participate with that. We are going to have these sort of trainings. Let me just go over this. So we're going to have these kind of boot camps on We've been talking about this, so we're just booked them here. On May 22nd, we're gonna do a boot camp. We're gonna start at 10 o'clock again on Tuesday. It'll last 2.5 to 3 hours, and we'll do the listing side. We're gonna go over the listing agreement, we're gonna go over the seller's disclosure, we're gonna go over the mandatory homeowners association, we're gonna go over what you do and say at a listing agreement and listing appointment. We're gonna go over comps and those sort of things, anything to do with the listing. And then on June 12th, we're gonna do the selling side, all about contracts, all about inspections, all about termite inspections, hydraulic tests, hydrostatic tests, all those sort of things on the selling side. And then on the 19th, we're gonna do odd things, growing your business, marketing, branding yourself, that sort of thing. Okay? So we've got those 3 dates that we've locked down now. We'll serve a little lunch. Each of them will last beyond 12, so who knows how long they'll last. We'll bring some lunches in for lunchtime also. Any other questions, comments? Thank you for showing up today. It's a little long, but. Yes. Okay.